going to look at our own legal options to get this case back into court, and the evidence seemed overwhelming.
Wow, this case continues. Chicago police outraged over the dropped charges against Jussie Smollett, doubling down on calls for a federal investigation as they prepare to protest the prosecutor, Kim Foxx, and that's happening today. So are Smollett's troubles really far from over? Here to weigh in is former FBI Assistant Director Mark Morgan. Mark, where is he right now in terms of getting out and starting fresh?
Look, if I was a special in charge of the Chicago field office, I'd definitely be getting the appropriate legal team and investigators together to take a look at this from a couple angles. One being obstruction of justice through wire fraud. That means any utilization of any wired communications, texting, cell phone, in furtherance with intent, with a scheme to impede, in this case, the Chicago PD's investigation, that could be actionable at a federal level. That's very possible, Brian.
Well, okay, to do that, possibly. And by the way, Kim Foxx, the prosecutor, she wrote an editorial. She said she'd welcome an outside review. And here's an excerpt. Since it seems politically expedient right now to question my motives and actions and those of my office, let me state publicly and clearly that I welcome an outside, non-political review of how we handled this matter. Would you take her up on that? If so, how?
Yeah, again, if I was SAC, 100% absolutely, and I hope they're doing that now. Because I tell you, Brian, just the communication alone that we know that she had with someone that was connected to the Smollett family, that she took that communication, that was inappropriate on its face, but she did more. In the law enforcement community, she did what we call an overt act. She actually acted on that request by going to the chief and trying to get the case transferred to the FBI. That alone is a high degree of predication with respect to a public corruption case.
And you like the fact that the mayor said, pay me $130,000 it costs, or we're suing you to get that money back. And if they don't write the check, if he writes the check, he shows he's guilty. And if he doesn't write the check, what happens?
If he doesn't write the check, it's going to trial. It may not be a criminal trial, but it's still going to be a trial. That case, it's going to be unsealed. All the evidence is going to be out there for the world to see. What people need to understand is the burden of proof was much less in a civil trial, and he, more than likely, based on what we know now, if it goes to trial in a civil court, I think he's going to be found liable.
Prediction, how does this story move this week?
You know, I think that hopefully the FBI is going to take a look at this and make some action one way or whether on the hoax issue. But don't forget, we still have the letter out there. And if he's connected in any way with the letter, he didn't have to send the letter. He just had to participate in the scheme to send the letter, and he's in trouble. That could take a little bit longer. But remember, the mayor gave him a deadline to pay that money, the $130,000. If he doesn't, I think we're going to see some action.
Just going through the process, getting community service, paying a fine, it would have been so much better off, obviously, than what you're looking at now. Mark Morgan.